Hi there, my beautiful beings. How are you today? So as promised, we were going to continue on this path that my gorgeous spirit guides has put me on today to reveal all of this beautiful information that a person that causes pain to another is in pain themselves. Always remember that when you stop to judge someone. Always remember that it's the pain inside of them that is causing them to behave in that way. Having said that, we are not born cruel. We are not born barbaric. When we come into the world, we are this beautiful love. We are this beautiful light. We are fresh from spirit. And when we enter this simulation, this beautiful planet, this earth, when we enter, we take our first breath. We are an opportunity to the beautiful beings that are holding us to remember that this is who they are as well. To remind them, you are this love, you are this light. But so many of these beings have been in pain for so long, have been in the darkness for so long, that they just can't remember. And that is their journey. That is their path. You know, we need to remember that not everyone is here to awaken. That is what their soul is here to experience. That pain, that suffering, that darkness. So we must respect that that is that person's journey. Now, what was coming up as I was talking about the previous video with this little cat that was being, this kitten that was being attacked by this human and beaten to death, because that's what we witnessed on the video. And I'm sure it's not the only one, you know, it's there were so many things coming through. The first thing I wanted to bring through was I was remembering that for most of my life, I couldn't watch war movies. I didn't know why. My husband loves watching them. He loves watching them, you know, and he's watched all of them. And he would sit there, and as soon as I would see that it's about a war, I would just walk out of the room and go read a book or do something else. I just couldn't sit through it. You know, sometimes I'd really push myself and think, why? What's wrong with me? You know, that I can't watch it. And it wasn't until I had my first past lifetime regression that I understood, oh, okay, there was still too much pain still sitting in my system, too much grief, you know, of past lifetimes where I have seen my sons go off to war and not return, you know, and receiving the news and having to sit with that grief that they were taken. I couldn't do anything about it. And I never got to see them again. So in that moment, when I received all that information, and then I spent a few weeks that I would just randomly start crying and like crying, wailing, crying, you know, not just, oh, there's a tear here or there, but like, ugly crying, you know. I would be at work and I'd have to go hide somewhere because I could feel this building up in me, and I would have to go hide somewhere for 10-15 minutes and just, right, just let it out, you know. And that went on for a couple of weeks, easily, you know, easily. And then that was coming up today when I was remembering this video about this lady with this kitten. And as I was remembering that, the question came through. How many lifetimes have I been here and been unkind to these beautiful animals that we share this planet with? How many lifetimes that I'm not even aware of, you know? And then what happens is it sits in your system, you know? And every time you see it, you feel bad. You don't even know why you feel bad. You feel bad. And the truth for me is that we haven't forgiven ourselves for those lifetimes. We haven't understood that that is what the soul came here to experience. You know, how bad we feel inside when we do these things. You know, the pain that we have to be in inside, the suffering, the darkness, this place, we need to be in to be able to do those things to other beings, to animals, to the planet, the trees, everything, our oceans. The outer world is just a reflection of our inner world. Always. It is our mirror. And I know only too well now that when I see something, it is meant for me. I'm seeing it for a reason. There is something that is trying to come up, that is stored, is being stashed down there, has just been shoved right down, been pushed down to the bottom. I don't want to look at it. It's too painful. No, don't want to go there. And what happens is, every time you witness it, every time you see it, you feel bad and you don't even know why. Why does this make me so angry? Or why does this make me feel so bad? Or why does this make me feel ashamed or guilty? What's going on? Why do I feel this way when I'm witnessing someone else do it? And it's because it's in your system. For so long, I remember, it's been years and years and years that, I hear the word pedophile, or I would see them on the news, or you're watching a movie and it's about a pedophile that's killed a child or whatever. There's like, what is it, The Lovely Bones, I think it is. All those stories, that you see. And from quite early on, I knew, for some reason, I already knew that this person that was doing the abuse had already been through it. They'd learnt it. It's not something we're born with. This is where this video was going in the beginning. We are not born this way. Sexual abuse is something that we learn in our childhood from the parents around us. Domestic violence, watching your dad beat up your mum or your mum beat up your dad, is something that we learn. We watch this. We witness this. And again, as I said before, we're learning it from our environment. As I said before, as a little one, when my mum would come and yell at me, and when she'd come and she'd smack me, and I would just feel like I just wanted to disappear. If there was a hole and I could bury myself in it so that she couldn't find me, I would do that. That's how I felt. I just didn't want to, in the end, I just wanted to be invisible, that she just couldn't see me, because I was just done with being attacked. That's how it felt, as a child. But we learn this behavior. She learnt it. My mum learnt it from her childhood. And the beings before her, and the ones, this has been going on for generations. This beating your kid up to teach them a lesson. And half the time I could see her coming and she was angry, but I didn't know what I had done. She never stopped to explain, this is what you did and this is why I'm angry. No, I could see her yelling at me from the kitchen. I could hear her coming, and I was terrified. But this is what she learned. They weren't, the adults around her didn't sit to explain to her, this is what you've done and this is why you're being punished. And the ones before that and the ones before that. This fear, of being attacked has been going on for generations by our parents, not knowing what did we do. There's been this belief in the system, the generations of all my ancestors, that if the child is punished accordingly, that they will remember not to do it, again. They'll never do that again. They won't, what's it called? Not follow the rules, I guess. For me, it was hard because I didn't know what the rules were. Half the time, I honestly, because I lived in my own world and I was always reading, I didn't know what the rules were. So, I just know that, here she comes again, she's angry and I'm going to cop it, because I'm the eldest, I'm the one that always cops it when she's, lost the plot. So, but these are learned behaviors, and I could have done the same. My dad could have done the same. My dad has never raised his hand to me, ever. But his punishment for me was 100 times worse than my mum. And my uncle did the same to my cousin, one of my uncles, and she would tell me, and I was like, oh my God, I know, it's the worst. They just wouldn't talk to you. If you did something that upset them, they just wouldn't talk to you. They'd just ignore you for a day, you know, until you were like, well, I'm sorry. I don't know what I did, but I'm sorry. You know, that I've offended you, I've upset you, whatever. You know, can we like be okay now? And that hurt more than, you know, all the smacking in the world and all the yelling. And I know because when my daughter was little, I'm trying to think how old she was. I think she was 3. And I remember one day she did something and, you know, I just, and instead of yelling at her, I thought, you know what? I'm just not going to. And I did that. I just cut her off that day and I didn't talk to her. And that afternoon my husband came, you know, and he picked her up and she looked back at me like, oh, you know, Mummy's not. And she just gave me this look. I'll never forget the look that she gave me, but it was the first time and the last time I ever did it, because I felt like I had cut her so deep, you know, and I thought, I can't do that to someone that I love. You know, it's not right. So, yeah, that I only once, and it hurt me more than whatever effect it had on her, you know, that day. It was like, I've lost Mummy. It was basically like, she looked at me like that, like, oh, I've lost Mummy. I don't know what's happened. I don't know what I've done. She was saying to, you know, my husband. And it's like she'd lost trust, you know, that bond we'd had up until that point. It felt like it had broken, splintered, you know, and there was the trust was lost, that you can rely on this being no matter what. You know, this is what I always wanted because it's something I felt I never had. Well, I had it with my dad, you know, but my dad was never there. He was working 12-hour days. You know, he'd leave at 5 a.m, didn't get back until 6, which is more than 12-hour days. And sometimes he worked weekends, but if not, he was there on the weekends. We got to see him weekends. But, you know, weekdays, by the time he got home, he was so tired. All he wanted to do was eat dinner and plop in front of the TV and we were done. You know, we hardly saw him. So as much as he was my rock and I loved him to death, you know, he just wasn't there. You know, it wasn't my usual environment. My usual environment was the chaos, you know. And all of this is learned behaviors, learned. So there's 2 things to take away from this video. Because for many of us, this could be something that we're going through with family, not a stranger that you're observing this behavior and you think, why? Why would you do that to something that can't defend itself? And, you know, for me, it was just so clear today that being was seeing itself in this kitten that was crying, but not itself now. They were seeing themselves as that defenseless little child, you know, that, like I said, was probably crying for food. And that's what they got because the parents couldn't give them anything else. And they just felt so bad that they couldn't give them the food. They couldn't give them the life that they wanted to give them. And it was just one more mouth to feed, you know. And it's just frustrating. And this is sometimes how adults deal with their frustration, with their anger, you know. I know because I was yelling at my daughter until she was about 4, and not understanding where this yelling was coming from. I swore I was never going to do it. Why am I yelling at her? And it was my own frustration, you know, with my life, with my financial situation. It was my own frustration. But I needed to learn that for myself, you know, and also to learn that when you're the one doing the yelling, it doesn't feel any better than when you're the one receiving it. It doesn't. You feel like crap after that you've done that to someone that, you know, someone so beautiful. You know, because I'm sure my mum looked at me and felt the same way after. How could I do that? You know, they're just so beautiful, so innocent, so full of love. They have nothing else, you know. There's nothing else in a child. So, my beautiful beings, there's 2 ways always to look at things. One, and for me, this was the first one, and I think a lot of it came out in the first book, Your Past is a Gift. We learn these behaviors. We're not born with them. We learn them. We learn these behaviors of abuse, of causing pain to others, causing hurt. And it's because the hurt's already inside. We learned it, and then We're applying it. We're expressing our hurt into this world, our pain, our suffering, our darkness, the darkness we are in. We are expressing that because that's what's inside of us. The second way to look at it is if you're within yourself, you're feeling a lot of judgment coming up about it. You see, for me, with pedophiles, yes, I felt for the child, but I also understood that this person was once a child and that they must have gone through that in order for them to think that this is normal behavior to do in the world. This is normal because this is what I grew up with. So this must be how the world functions. It is learned behavior every single time. The second thing is to sit with yourself. If there is strong judgment about something, perhaps this is something that's still sitting in your system. It's a lifetime where you've been that. You've been the pedophile, you've been the abuser, you've been the attacker, you've been the rapist, you've been the whatever it is that you're judging in this lifetime. You've been all of those things in past lifetimes, but you haven't forgiven yourself yet for the pain and the suffering that you caused another being. You haven't forgiven yourself. So sit with that. Sit with yourself and allow that information, if it's showing up for you and it's bringing up all these feelings inside of you that make you feel bad, that you just want to hurt that person, according to my husband, because he really gets upset with pedophiles, that they should all be dead, they should all be killed. And I'll be like, dude, chill. They're just a product of their environment, a product of this society. That's all it is. They've learned this from their environment. But we only see the product. We only see the end result, where the person is at now, that they're doing these things. We don't stop to look back at, wow, what's this person been through? That they are now at this point doing these things. What has this person had to witness? What have they been forced to do that they didn't want to do? Or what did they have to put up with that they couldn't do anything about? For many of us, a person that's never been smacked, has never been yelled at, they just can't understand how that feels. They don't understand. Sometimes my husband will come in and he'll be talking about people that lie, and anyway, there's a particular person that he works with that will do that. But this particular person has also told him, because he's been working there for a while now, that he was smacked a lot as a child. Or beaten, because he was a boy, beaten would probably be the word. I think boys are hitting harder than girls. So he was hit. And my heart always goes out to him when my husband says that he lies to him, or that he, can't tell the truth, or he can't take responsibility. He's always looking to blame others when things go wrong. And I know exactly what that feels like. I know how you feel if that's you, if you can't tell the truth, if you have to lie to cover it up. Because we had to learn this behavior. As a child, we had to learn this behavior to avoid punishment. We didn't want to confess. We didn't want to say, oh, look, take responsibility. Look what I did. You're going to be mad, but look what I did. You're going to come and hit me. You're going to come and yell at me. You're going to go off the handle like you always do, but look what I did. No way. As a child, you learnt to cover it up. You'd never tell the truth. And for me, that was conflicting, because in Catholic Church, we had to tell the truth. We weren't allowed to lie. But I knew the consequences. If I had done something and I knew that it was going to upset my mum, I knew how that was going to turn out. There was no way I was going to tell her. I'd rather go to the confessional and tell the priest, oh, look, this is what I did. And I lied to my mum. I'd rather tell the priest I lied to my mum 1,000 times than to have to tell her the truth. So I know what that feels like. Again, you see, a learned behavior. A learned behavior. How nuts is it? You know, that's the word I'm after. How nuts is it that you can't tell your parents the truth? Because they're going to get so upset and they're going to come and yell at you and they're going to come and smack you, and you know what's behind door number 1. If I tell the truth, that's what's behind door number 1. I choose door number 2. I choose to not tell the truth, and I don't care if my soul goes to heaven or not, because the church says you can't lie. I'm going to hell. I'd rather that than go through door number 1. Can you imagine as a child? I'd rather go to hell and tell a lie than to tell her the truth. This is what we are taught to do when, you know, our parents behave this way. We learn this behavior. We learn to lie, to cover it up, to not take responsibility. We learn all of that. And then what happens? We feel ashamed because we're constantly having to lie our way through everything. We feel ashamed. We feel guilty that we can't tell the truth. I want to, but I know what's behind that door and I don't want to open it. Keep it closed. I don't even want to look at the door. That's how you feel as a child. I don't even want to look at the door. I don't even want to look at it. The door, if I pretend it's not there, it doesn't exist. So, my beautiful beings, number 1, it's a learned behavior. Number 2, it can be a past lifetime that's still sitting in your system, something that you have been many, many times perhaps, and you haven't forgiven yourself for those experiences, all the suffering and the pain that you caused. And there's something else coming through. We're going to talk about it in the next video. Okay? Bye for now. We love you dearly. Remember to click like and subscribe. And I didn't send you my kiss. Bye for now.